So thank you for coming. It's really nice to see you. I must admit that after... Okay, so I must admit, I was saying that the audience on the first event is much bigger, and I'm happy to see this. And I'll introduce the agenda for today. So we will have 2 speakers, and after the speakers session we will have little quiz just for fun, and you will also get presents. So okay, so little spoiler alert. And I'll just very simply introduce our first speaker, who is Bordunov, our lead software engineer, and he will talk about the memory management. So let's listen to him.
1, 2, 3. Okay. So hi, my name is Evgeny. As was said. So the first question: how is it going? How are you? Very good. Okay. So. Okay. So let's start. So the first question to answer is why do we need to know about garbage collection in VA and memory allocation and such stuff? Well, I can say that for 3 reasons for me. First of all, it's a good thing to understand your tool, be a better engineer, and for the second reason is to be able to find some problems in your application if it would be necessary. And for the third reason, I would say that from my experience, it's a very common question on technical interviews about garbage collection. So let's dive in. And first thing first, let's look into 2 common ways to arrange memory in VA. Well, they are not the only 2 ways to arrange memory at all. So there are other solutions, but V8 uses 2 different ways. And first of all, it's stack. I think you are all familiar with that. So data structure, first in, last out. We have a pointer to some head of the stack. We push items into that head, move the pointer, pop item from that head, move the pointer, and so on. And the second way to arrange memory is a heap. Heap memory. Well, you are maybe familiar with the term heap from such data structure as binary heap, but it's different. It's really a heap of the memory where you can put all your objects, everything you need just somewhere, have a pointer to that, and well, live on with it. It's a very flexible data structure, but as you will see in the future, it has some disadvantages. And the only restrictions in a heap, it's like its size. You can't put more things that it can contain. That's all. But now let's take some look about how we can manage memory in our application. How we can say to our systems that we need some memory or we don't need some memory. So the first type of memory management is manual. System gives us some API and where we can say that we need some memory and that some memory is not necessary anymore. And well, you forgot to allocate memory for yourself in such management type. You will get null pointer exception or something like this. You will forget to release that memory, well, you receive a memory leak. Simple, but quite annoying. The second type of management is resource acquisition is initialization. So basically, it's you don't tell the system that you need memory. You tell the system that you need some resource, and the system handles that request, allocates all the necessary memory. But when you don't need that resource, when you, like for instance, you're finishing your function, you're returning from it, and you need to deallocate all the resources it has, and the system will handle that for you. But one catch here, you will be forced to write a code in such manner. But still, it's a well, so some languages uses that technique. For instance, with some modifications, that technique is widely used in Rust. Anyone familiar with Rust will remember borrowing models and so on. And of course, the third type of memory management, automatic, with collecting garbage, with anything you know about, like I need new object, system, hey, you need new object, and so on, so on, so on. We will focus mostly on last automatic management type because it's the only one present in VA. So now let's think how we can detect in our heap memory that something is garbage. There are a lot of ways, and I think the first one and the most simplest in explanation is reference counter. For instance, we have such picture, it's all which very schematic, but here we have three objects, and two of that objects knows that someone from the system reference to them, and they can store the amount of such links to them. So in my example, this is one reference to one object and one reference to another green object, but a red object doesn't have any references. So this is when the system, when your code and whatever sees that some object doesn't have any incoming references, that object can be released and its memory can be reused or returned to this operation system. Well, but the biggest problem of that way of memory reference, memory allocation, that if objects reference to itself, or if some objects reference themselves in a recursion or in a loop, well, that algorithm without modifications cannot detect such problems. Of course, there are ways to avoid this or to detect this, but let's put them out of scope because V8 doesn't use reference counting. By the way, but I must confess that one infamous browser with the most infamous version used that reference counting, I think, ES6 and ES7, but who knows about ES7. So yeah, and the technique V8 uses a lot, it's a tracing. So suppose we have some objects in our memory that we consider as a root object that will be here for entire application life. It's a blue object, a blue soft. And well, on my picture there is only one, but they're possible to be a lot of them. It depends on implementation. We can trace from that root object any links to other objects. So we start with the root objects, go from for all it links, then from links from it links, and so on, so on, so on, so on. And then we will have a picture about like which objects are reachable from those roots and which objects are not. So if object is not reachable, I think we can release it without any second thought. And well, there is one more problem that we should consider. If we traced all our unused objects, we release them, then our memory starts to be fragmented. What I mean? Here, our sample of heap, it's schematic. Don't think that heap is organized in that way. It's organized much more complex way, so just schematic, so you will easily understand it. Here, our heap, we have here 4 objects: yellow, blue, green, and red. We decided this somehow that red object is not used anymore. We released it, but here is a problem. We have 2 blocks of memory available for us, but we can't put here object of size 2 because we would need to split it in half. It is technically possible. We can split that object in half, put the length between those halves, and then live with that. But still, there is another way. We can align all lived objects in our memory. So the problem of allocating memory for new objects, like the size of 2 in my example, would be not a problem anymore. So yeah, and So here in my example, we had to play Tetris in the side of memory, but still we can do better. For instance, we can copy all those objects we still need to other area of memory. This would be beneficial for small amounts of memory, up to several megabytes. In this case, really it's easier to copy, it's faster. And in V8, we have a lot of objects which need to be allocated and then deallocated, and for such situations, copying only survived object is faster too. So here's, you can see we have 2 spaces, let's call them semi-spaces because they are identical by size and they divide our heap into 2 identical halves. So one semi-space is blank, clear, and it's inactive. I marked it with a gray link to it. And we have active semi-space with a white link. So we have such memory allocation, then we just copy all our objects, align them, and switch the pointer to new semi-space. We switched just 2 pointers. So now all allocation would be in here. And we can clear that memory without affecting our main thread, without affecting our program, and so on. Let's think. Can we combine everything I described? Well, maybe not everything, but some ways of managing garbage. Yes, we can. And V8 uses it a lot. So here's a situation. We have one semi-space, and we have another blank, and we have incoming object. So V8 required to allocate memory for that new object. We can't because we have to split it. So what we do? We copy. We traced our memory. We decided that some object is not longer required. We copy only survived object in a new semi-space. We place a new object here and just clean the memory that left behind. So that algorithm, known as scavenger, well, at least in terms of V8, and it's widely used for new objects, so only for them, and it's only used for the memories of very small, like up to several megabytes. And yet, this process requires our main thread to be stopped for quite a short period of time. But there can be another situation which we need to consider. So what if we have such allocation of memory? We cleaned it, yeah? Then allocate new object, cleaned it again, allocate new object, cleaned it again. What we can see? We have annoying yellow block. That yellow block survived for quite long. So there is a question, should we consider that yellow block in next garbage collection iteration? Well, obviously yes, because we don't know about that yellow block anything, but we can visit it less. Less often, so we might put it in another memory and visit it from time to time, some ways. But we would need another algorithm for that. Why? Because, first of all, as it happens, we have a lot of long-living objects, like hundreds of megabytes, and we can't afford ourselves to have one space with several hundred megabytes that is currently used, and another for several hundred megabytes that is not used and just sits here and waits. So we would require some algorithm that would operate in place. And here, there is another one. Very similar for scavenger, mark, sweep, compact. And yeah, it stops the world too, but there are a lot of optimizations to it, and I will speak about them later. So first of all, let's imagine we have again some schematic representation of our old generation, old objects, long-living objects, call them like you want. But here we have a root object, blue circle, and some objects we don't know about them yet. They're gray. Then we trace them from the root. We see that some objects are reachable, some are not. We release the memory of unreachable objects, and then we compact the memory, so to avoid the fragmentation of it. Everything fine, but that require to stop the main thread, and it can be quite a long process because we operate on hundreds of megabytes of memory. Let's see how V8 optimized. So first of all, V8 is not single-threaded. We can split our garbage collector in steps and spawn some threads to help us to, for instance, mark all our objects, because marking usually is quite very concurrently optimizable, let's say. And then the next optimization is incremental mark or sweeping or compacting. Well, compacting usually is done in one step, but marking and sweeping can be divided in some small steps. So here in this picture you can see that some marking and sweeping is done in other threads and main, and we can have a concurrently running JavaScript with our garbage collection. And well, if we detect that some objects have changed when marking was in the process, then only those objects would be revisited, and usually it's a small amount of objects. And yeah, of course we should stop the world, should stop the main thread, and then compact and update our memory and objects. Here is written 10 milliseconds, but it depends. It can be much faster if your application don't use a lot of memory. And there are some other techniques to optimize. For instance, garbage collector won't be run just in any time. It would run, or if you don't have any free memory in your spaces, or if your application is idle. And the last optimization, it's that garbage collector will, for instance, compact only those areas of memory that it decided that they needed to be compacted, because, well, there are a lot of long-living objects, but not of them are updated every time. And yeah, the whole picture. It's a memory of V8. It's again very schematic, but still. As you can see in the bottom here is a stack memory. Stack memory used mostly for function calls, so they are stored like a returning address, some arguments of function, local variables, well, not the values, but mostly the links, and primitives. And the stack memory is destroyed after function returns, so it's usually don't require any garbage collection. But yeah, here we have heap memory, new space. It's for new objects and two semi-spaces. I think you can remember from my previous slides. And old space, it's for long-living objects. So here two areas. They're usually not the same size, but here it was like the same. Old pointer space, it's for objects that have links to other objects, and old data space, it's for objects that don't have pointers to another object. So usually it's primitive values, strings, and flat objects. Large object space, it's another tricky area of memory, because if you allocate memory for objects larger than 8 megabytes, as I remember, it would go here, and it won't be garbage collected at all for entire application life. So be careful with big objects. Code space, it's a space where no data is stored, but only executable code. And some executable code can be placed here, but it's exceptional cases. And those three areas, cell space, properties cell, and map space, they are for internal use. They contain descriptions of your classes, of your objects, templates of them, and so on and so on and so on. And the last thing I forgot to mention, our old pointer space can have links in our young generation. But for garbage collector not to go through all data in old pointer space, usually those links are stored in another internal data structure, which is usually quite small and can be traversed with big, in small time. And a couple of things I want to say in the end of my talk. So first of all, do not try to optimize anything in the garbage collector, because it came through a lot of time and a lot of commits and a lot of logics here, there, and usually it's quite efficient. But you may need it. Usually it's the tasks of gaming and very smooth animations and so on. So your, for instance, frames won't be interrupted by garbage collector. And server, but still, there are a lot of techniques to reuse memory, to allocate a memory from the start of application and so on. If you're interested in, just Google, there are a lot of materials about that. And if you have some problems, check your code, because usually it's a problem in logic of application, not in the garbage collection and so on in V8. Well, that's all. Thank you. I would gladly answer your question regarding V8.
Thank you very much for your speech. It was cool. And I have a question about garbage collector. What is the starting point when garbage collector understand how to mark objects that are not used? You said that there is a tracing algorithm that it goes from somewhere and then check if the object can be accessed. What is the start point?
we have to switch microphone. So usually, as I said, usually it starts only when you. So when you need memory for to allocate a new object. So like your heap is full. You need some memory to allocate new objects. So garbage collector started. Or when your application is idle. So like it won't interrupt anything. And speaking of reaching the objects that are no longer used, V8 has a pointers to every object it created. So it can reach them, but if they are reachable only from internals of V8 and not from your code, well, the candidates to release.
Yeah, thank you. Answer the question.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. You said it can be useful to know how V8 works under the hood. Do you have examples? How did you use this knowledge in your experience, in your practice?
Well, to be honest, I never faced problems with garbage collector itself. I have memory leaks in production and dev environments, well, I debug them, but the problems with the garbage collector, no, I haven't developed games, for instance, so my applications usually don't require a lot of memory.
Experience by 6.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. In the beginning, you mentioned that the stack heap memory have many problems and many disadvantages. And we talked about how we cannot cause big problems and be careful when we are working on memory, but how do you imagine the best memory management type? For example, he mentioned that the heap memory have many things which is not good. So how do you imagine the best memory management type? How to be perfect? I mean.
There is no right answer because every memory allocation, every type of memory management we can imagine, or there is in some language tools or. Yeah, I understood. Yeah. So it's all about our it's all about pros and cons. So we cannot have ideal and perfect memory management tool. So we can switch to manual, but here all the problems, all the complexity falls on our programmer shoulders. And well, but it's the fastest way. It's the most memory efficient. Yeah, the most processor, CPU efficient way. But still, well, there are some cons of this, and there is no ideal. That there is only the one you could use in your task and the not. For me, I would like, of course, to have a stack. It's simple, it's efficient, and so on. But it can handle. It couldn't handle. Usually, it couldn't handle like a variety size of objects. Only fixed one. So not for.
It's gonna be hard to work with.
Yeah. So there is no perfect solution. I'm sorry. And to be honest, I don't know much about memory allocations and possible solutions because you know people got scientific degrees on the questions of allocation memory and tracing garbage in memory.
Look what WebKit does in Safari. It's super compared to it, seriously. It's concurrent generation GC.
Yeah, but still it's a garbage collector. It's a heap memory and so on.
It's a much better algorithm than
but they still use tracing, Mark supercompiler and all. Yeah, but their implementation is like.
Yeah.
So, thank you for listening and for asking very interesting questions. My question is, would you like to drink some coffee or would you like to continue? Okay, great.
Hi everyone, I'm Vitaly. My talk's called Your Reputation Precedes You, or it doesn't, who knows. I'm 38, I've been doing IT for the last 22 years. I started being a system administrator, then I was a front-end developer for 13 years. So yes, I started with IE 5.5, had all the joyful experience of doing Ajax there. It was a nightmare, yes. Then I was an engineering manager for the last 9 years, I think, or 7 years, I can't remember. I started teaching engineering managers, I think 5 or 7 years ago, can't remember honestly. And I'm a big quality enthusiast, that's why I work in this company. We are building a great ads here, yes. We are building a great TMS system. So, whoa, what is that? Okay, whatever, you see the Wikipedia symbol, so it's all okay. So what is reputation? Reputation essentially, as Wikipedia says, is a belief or an opinion that someone holds of someone or something else. So essentially it's just an opinion. If you see this man, you suddenly recall something of this person. You have an opinion if he is a douchebag or he's a good guy, whatever. You have some opinion, you developed it. This guy as well, I guess, you used one of his products, I think. This one, does anyone know him? Yeah, some people know, good. So we are going to be talking here about an opinion about you. So my talk is not about Linus Torvalds or Elon Musk. So how do people form opinions? My thesis is that people form opinions naturally. So I'm here talking to you. You will have some opinion formed about me after I'm finished the talk. And mostly, this opinion is formed unconsciously. Maybe you like my hair, maybe you dislike my hair, maybe you like my t-shirt, something else. Oh, thank you. So, in most cases, it will be unconscious. If you see a person and you dislike him, it takes some time for that person to persuade you that he is a good one. He must provide you with some value or talk to you properly, who knows. And the opinion is formed during any interaction. So I'm talking now, we are interacting with you. Let's have a look at the examples. So you go to the shop and you talk in a rude way to a shop assistant. You will be perceived as a bad person by that shop assistant. So that shop assistant will have developed a bit of a bad reputation about you. Or you're a hiring manager and you've interviewed someone and you provide no feedback after the interview. So the engineer will think, well, this guy sucked. Or you're a mentor at a company and you have people joining your team and you help them and you do a good job about it. So people will perceive you in a good way. Or you give a talk at a conference. Or you chat in a Telegram or Slack community. If people see that what you're saying makes sense or doesn't make sense, they will build some reputation of you. So we do something and people perceive it somehow. Unconsciously, naturally, consciously sometimes, but most unconsciously. We can add conscious effort. I will explain why, but here's a few things you can do to build your reputation online or offline. You can give talks at conferences, you can publish blog posts, wow. You can become a well-known thought leader, you can manage your Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, Twitter, whatever. You can run a podcast, you can stream videos, how you code while lying in the bath or whatever. You can create and manage your own community, mentor junior developers, plenty of ways. There's actually hundreds of ways how you can do stuff. But why all this? Why do I think that you and I and everyone else should add conscious effort to building your reputation? A few things: career, company, well-being, that's it. So the value for the career. First of all, if you have a good reputation on the market, you have more opportunities. I think you all have LinkedIn, right? You all have LinkedIn. Yeah. Pretty much everyone has LinkedIn. So more good contacts you have, more good stuff you post, better your reputation gets. And as soon as people get to know you on LinkedIn, for example, they will offer you a job, or at least offer you to be interviewed at a job. So you expose your knowledge if you post something to an audience on LinkedIn or whatever. At my place of work, I was hired without an interview at all, because I gave plenty of talks when I used to live in Russia, so I was quite well known there. And my boss just approached me and asked me, well, Vitaly, here's the money, here's what to do you want to start? I said, yes. So my reputation worked for me. Higher salary. In the US, there is a profession, I'm actually doing this stuff, called developer advocacy. So developer advocates, they are either developers or managers, or like they are specialists, plus they have some reputation. They have bigger network, they are well known at conferences, etc. So they are paid from 30 to 50% on top of a good developer's salary. So it's always good to have a good reputation on the market. And it's also good for job safety. I've heard stories, I won't mention the company names, but one company back in Russia had a developer advocate. And one of the directors of the company had a row with this person. They had a conflict. And this director said, "Guy, mate, you're going to be fired now." Then, later on, HRs came to that director and said, I think you're doing a bad job here. This person speaks at every conference. This person will destroy our reputation. So please, let's give him a good parachute." So they gave him an annual salary for him not to expose the conflict outside. Good job safety, right? Value for the company. First, it's quite obvious. It's better hiring. If you have a good community at your hands, at your disposal, a community where you're a good member, you can just invite people. You can even skip recruitment at all. You can just say, "Mate, I have a position, come work with me." And people will come. Same goes for retention. People don't actually want to leave companies where good, well-known, having good reputation people work. Quite obvious. And of course, it's better motivation. When you are perceived in the market that you're a great specialist, let's say well-known, I think well-known people like, who was it? Oh, I can't remember his name. Wow. Okay, we know good engineers, right? Good engineers work for certain companies. It's always a good addition to a vacancy post if they put that this person works in this company. People want to look up to others, to those who are great. And the last one is very important. It's transitive reputation. What it means that if you know that a certain person is really smart and you look up to this person, suddenly you will have an unconscious tendency to value the product that the company of this person builds more. Because you kind of expect that if this smart engineer works for a certain company, it might be that their product is better than the average one. And the last one, well-being. There is excessive body of scientific knowledge saying that essentially we understand ourselves, we perceive ourselves through others. So if we get round of applause, we feel much better. If we have lots of communication everywhere and every single person, maybe not every single, but most people tell you, you're a great engineer, you're a great front-end engineer, okay, then you feel better. So I just linked this result of a search of social recognition and well-being. So if you are well perceived in the social group of your profession, you live a better life. So what do we do? I mean, I've showed you, where was it? A huge list. Come on. Where? Yeah. I've showed you a huge list of stuff we can start doing. So how do we start slowly? Well, first, we can start real small. at your company, at your team, you can start a reading club, or with your friends. If you're hesitant to go and give a talk at a meetup or a conference, if you feel a bit afraid, it's much easier to start something little, something in a team or a company where you feel comfortable. Reading club takes a couple of hours a week. You just gather with your folks, discuss a few chapters of a book you've just read. And this will give you some confidence that you can organize stuff, that people want to look up to you, at least in this area. Or you can do team talks. Like in our company, we have every 2 weeks, we have a Friday talk on Wednesday. Don't ask why it's called like that, but it's Friday talk on Wednesday. So yeah, at 6 p.m. we have a talk, and anyone from my team or from any other team can give a talk on pretty much any topic. This is a good stuff too, because you organize something, you start sharing what you've learned, you start realizing that it's not painful, you start seeing appreciation from your peers. Another approach would be to start publishing what you learn. So every engineer always learns something new. Every week you learn something new. You read a few articles, you read a few posts, or maybe a white paper of some sort, whatever. You can publish on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever, a small excerpt or your summarization of what you've just learned. It's similar to Reading Club, but just publishing. I've read another chapter of Why Redux Sucks book. This is why. This is what I agree, this is why I disagree. And this will also show you that it's not that painful to formulate your thoughts, that it's not that painful to publish it, and then you get your likes or appreciation marks from LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever you use. And then things can grow bigger. So from Reading Club, it's much easier to start a knowledge sharing community at your company. In big companies, they call it guilds, right? Guilds, yeah. They call it guilds, where you front-enders, let's say you organize in an informal way. And so you meet on a monthly or bi-weekly basis, and you share some knowledge. You've learned how to write auto tests, you've learned how to do something else, you've learned how garbage collector in V8 works, and you just do what we've just done here, but inside your company. So you're not going to be afraid to go and give a talk somewhere else. It's much easier, because you know your peers. Team talks. As soon as you've given 5, 10, 15 talks in your team, it's then much easier to go join FrontSpot Georgia or any other place, any other community, and give a talk there. And with publishing what you learn, it's growing quite naturally to proper blog posts or even streams. So if you're comfortable capturing on video what you've learned, like what you are sharing, then you can just start doing streams. It's easy. And the main thing here for me, main advice that I have, is to grow reputation in a way that you like. First, you need to think what you're doing, set discipline, get help from pros, and have fun. So, what I'm saying is that think what you're doing essentially means that you need to understand your as-is model, who you are now, where you are communicating with people, where you're sharing stuff, and your to-be model, whom you want to become. So, if you are an engineering manager and you want to become a CTO, you can get a good understanding what CTO comprises of, what this role comprises of. And then you can think how you can make your transition to that model public. So you learn essentially in public. And channels, you just need to choose where you are publishing stuff. Is it going to be your YouTube, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your Facebook? When you're starting, it doesn't matter, you just need to start. Then you will figure out some S&M stuff later if you need it. I don't give about S&M, I just do what I love. But anyway, you can then pick the most effective channels for you. Set discipline is very important, because regularity is key here. If you post once half a year, once a 6 month, it's not going to be enough. People won't recall who you are when they see another post from you. If you post something at least once a month, or once a week, or once or 2 weeks, that will be good. People will recall who you are, and they will remember, oh right, this is Vitaly again, oh right, this is Vitaly again, it's good. So rare, but regular, once every 2 weeks, once a month, is better than nothing for sure. So even if you do a post once a month, in a year time, you will have 12 good posts. Get help from pros. Usually people are afraid of stage. People are usually unconsciously, subconsciously afraid to come here and give a talk, present to the audience. There are people who train actors to, well actually to become actors. We have 2 acting trainers here, by the way. So there are acting trainers who help you uncover, unleash what you are, who you are on stage, to become comfortable, to start being comfortable on stage, to present, to correct your speech, to do plenty of different stuff. There are also proofreaders or teachers who teach you how to properly write, how to formulate your thoughts, how to get engaged in heated discussions, how to excel in rhetoric, etc. You can always find a mentor. You can go to program committee, FrontSpot Georgia. You can come to a program committee and they will help you to at least formulate your thesis well. And they will help you with the dry run if needed. So pretty much every program committee of every meetup or any conference, they help you. They can become pretty much a mentor for you. Or you can practice with your friends. You can just ask your peers at your team to listen to your talk, to provide feedback, to have a few dry runs until you feel comfortable that it's all right. Well, I'm not sure why it's AF. It was supposed to be something different, but whatever. That slide was called usual issues that people have. Usual concerns that people have. So first concern, and I see it everywhere, it's like pretty much every speaker, when he or she is starting, has this concern: I have nothing to say, I have no topics. It's a lie. It's a usual myth. Every single developer, even if he or she is junior one, has something to say. I have a good analogy that when you or your kid go to elementary school, to first grade, you are taught calculus, the simplest mathematics possible. Not calculus, what's the arithmetics. The simplest form of mathematics. It's quite banal. Everyone knows how 1 + 1 = 3. And yet, it's useful for the kids. So every junior developer can provide good value for other junior developers. It's a matter of choosing your target audience. If you create a knowledge-sharing community of junior developers, and you yourself is junior, you are junior as well, it's going to be a great help for those guys and girls. So choosing a topic usually takes some practice. It demands some practice. What we do when we help people with choosing topics is we interview them. We just sit with a person, ask the person what your good experience is, what your bad experience is, what your failures are, what you're proud of. Tell me about your last half a year experience, what you've achieved at your job. And usually, if you can practice this interview with a friend, you can just ask to be interviewed. And if the person, or your friend, interviews you, you will realize that there's actually quite a significant amount of things that you can tell the audience. Another analogy here is that if you have a friend whom you haven't seen for a year, and you finally meet for a cup of beer, for a pint of beer, and the friend asks you, Vitaly, what have you done for the last year? And I'm telling this person, oh, plenty of stuff, let me tell you. And you have something to say, right? You always have something to say. This is your content. You always have things to say. When you're studying GC, it's always going to be interesting for pretty much any front-end developer, even if you don't have issues with that, right? Even if you never actually experience a debugging issue with V8, it's still interesting because it's engineering. So yeah, I'm a novice, I'm an amateur, I'm a junior developer. Is this pretty much the same with I have no topics. Everyone has topics. Another concern that people have is that it's rather a fear, not a concern, that I'm an introvert. I don't like people. I'm hesitant to start talking or start a conversation in a bar or whatever. It's trained, so you can train. First, if you have an action trainer, they will help you understand what you're actually afraid of. Or you can go to a psychotherapist for that matter as well. Those specialists help with understanding what you're afraid of and overcoming that. And it's not hard. Another concern is that people often say, I'm not charismatic, I'm not like perceived well in the audience or perceived well. Like usually people say, I can't come to a bar and have a party. I'm following someone. Well, once again, it's trained. As soon as you have your first 5 or 10 talks, as soon as you get your first applauses, you will realize that actually it's quite nice. And it's a great experience. And there's another fear that people will laugh at me. It's so cool, guys and girls. When people laugh at you, it's superb. You suddenly realize, oh, I'm good. I'm not boring, it's great. So I'm not sure why this slide called AF, but I'm not sure. And that's pretty much it. Why is it not working? That was supposed to be a fully animated cartoon, whatever. Please take a photo of this. This is my LinkedIn. I also am present at in Telegram, and I write posts on GitHub.
Okay, now it works. Thank you very much for talking. It was really cool. And I have a question about like introverts and the people who don't want to talk with you because they are afraid. Don't you think that sometimes it makes the situation worse? For example, when someone like to start, he do something, and after that, a lot of actually maybe it's in Russian community when we have a lot of toxic community, and after that the situation will be worse, and this person will say, okay, now I will stop doing anything related to people and so on.
I think that there are kind of 2 types of people, or 2 types of personality. I'm not sure how to say it. Like, there are people who can overcome this. There are people who have a tendency to escape from this. But it's like, for me, the analogy is with fight. Like, if you had a fight at the street at some point, you either wanted to get involved in it, or you would rather escape from it. But you can always go train boxing, right? And you will learn how to fight. So you will increase your chances of actually succeeding at a certain event. Same with acting training. You can go and train, and people will help you to overcome those fears. And that's it. And it's not painful. It's not as if you're jumping in an ocean and then you try to learn to swim. No.
Thank you.
It's more a personal question, but why did you decide to go public, to develop yourselves in terms of public speech and posting? So why was it?
Thank you. Yeah, sure. I used to live in London for 4.5 years, and then as soon as I had to come back to Russia for personal reasons, I figured out that every single interview was hard for me. I am quite intolerant to management stupidity. And so I was trying to be I was interviewing for engineering management position, and every single CTO I met was awfully stupid, like ridiculously stupid. Those people I wanted to have nothing with. So I was thinking what to do. How do I increase my own chances of actually getting a proper job? Do I learn algorithms better? Nah, not really. Do I submit to shit from management? Not for me. So I decided to go a different route. I decided to have a stronger hand in the interview process, to be more popular, and it worked out pretty well for me.
Do you mentor?
Yeah, sure, of course. Add me on LinkedIn or Telegram.
Do you connect with everybody who asks?
Except for recruiters. Yeah. I don't like recruiters, no.
Why not?
I think they're useless. Well, I mean, the process where they are employed is quite useless. Well, for the last 4 years, I never worked with recruiters. I always hire from my network.
So sometimes when I interview people, I ask, so the most popular maybe question on interview is like, what's your best thing that you do? But I also sometimes ask what the most maybe like bad fail that you had. Maybe you can share your experience, like talking about community, about talks and so on, maybe some bad experience that help you to grow.
When you work with your reputation consciously, sometimes you can fail, and the cost of failure will be significant. I've seen, I think 5 persons who failed so miserably, seriously, that it was almost a stop to their career. The last scandal I've heard of was in the US, when some senior or top manager of, I honestly can't remember the company name, but he joked on a sexist matter, and he was fired just like that. Of course he got his parachute, golden parachute, every single top manager does, right? But he's not going to be hired soon. So he's going to sit on that lump of cash of $10 million, but I mean, it's bad. So when you work with your reputation, you have to be really careful. I've mentioned that you need to compose your portrait or an image whom you want to become. And there is no place for being a douchebag in this image. So if you're doing something crazy like, I'm not sure, racism, sexism, stuff like that, it's gonna hurt. If you're just a developer and you're not exposed to the community, if you're just a nickname in the Telegram chat, not even a surname or first name, you can afford yourself pretty crazy stuff, right? But as soon as you become popular, you might be hurt by what you're saying. So you have to be extra careful with that. As for me, I was once severely trolled, seriously. I had a row with a certain person, and that person started posting fake reviews on me, on special websites. And that was quite tough. So this whole reputation can be misused as well. You can see, if you're on Twitter, you can see pretty much daily certain threads where people start to accuse each other of ridiculous stuff. And who knows if it's true or not, but they're just playing with it. So if you ask me, I would suggest not to use Twitter at all, or to use it just for professional matters. That's what maybe it's bad advice, I'm not sure, but that's what I'm following. I'm following this route, that I'm only posting professional stuff. Studies, my comments on studies, things like that. In Facebook, I've heard, I'm not using Facebook, and I've heard that there are armies of trolls there. I'm not sure about it, I can only share gossips. But LinkedIn is pretty nice, at least for me it works well. YouTube as well is nice as well, because if you put videos on YouTube, you control the comments. So you can actually ban the person from commenting. So the general advice would be that you should develop your reputation on the website or on a platform that you have good control of. Then you are well protected from trolls or from someone else being your competitor and just trying to destroy your reputation.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for your talk. I remember you was on our previous event, yeah?
That's why I decided to give a talk here.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and here we also have a person who started the FrontSpot community a few years ago, 5 years ago, 6? So, 4 years ago, in a small city, in a small country, and now we're here in FrontSpot Georgia, in Georgia, and we have a FrontSpot Georgia. What's the next step? We like follow your steps.
Yeah.
We start in one small company, then create a community in the city. Now it's like mostly world community. What's the next?
By saying proper, I mean international one. I would invent something that would be unique to, if you're focusing on this country, then unique to this country. maybe something in the mountains. I'm not sure. I would invent something unique that would attract people to you. Like, I think I will attend a conference in Cologne in summer. What they are doing there, they're doing agile open air testing days. So you sit by the beach, you have a nice couch, you have open fire, and you chat to people. It's ridiculously expensive to attend, and it's even more expensive to give a talk at if you want to have a sponsored talk. It's something around $20,000 to give a sponsored talk. And yet, people want to come, and people want to pay $4,000 for the ticket, because it's unique, and they're bringing thought leaders from all over the world. So it's a great opportunity, I think, to run something unique here or run something unique elsewhere. You can create a strong community of thought leaders or a strong community of people who help each other. You can invent not only talks, but you can invent different ways to interact. You can have master classes, brainstorms, ideation, whatever. You can stand out from the rest of the meetup crowd. And I would advise to think about it. Because, for example, I used to, when I lived in Russia, I used to give talks at a Rostov-on-Don conference. What they did, they had, how you call it, chateau with swimming pool, with barbecues, with big tents. So there were 5 tents. In each tent there was a talk. Then you could go and drink beer by the pool or swim in the pool. Plenty of stuff can be invented. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you for a great talk. Actually, I've had some similar ideas like previously, I guess, for a few years, because the more you grow, the more you actually think about this, because it's a market and competitors, etc. Yeah, it's good stuff. So thank you very much. You have found somewhat great. So you've mentioned about the goals, right? And you have to imagine yourself somewhere. Could you please share with us your goals? What are you trying to achieve?
I honestly suck at setting goals. Seriously, I am not that disciplined at all. I know that it has to be disciplined, but if so for example, I tried setting a goal for myself to have an article every 2 weeks. I failed 3 times for the last 3 months. Even though I can focus, yes I can, but there are other matters that I have to attend to. And so at the end of the day, I want to live a happy life. And for me, being chaotic sometimes is a happier way of living. If you can sustain good discipline, that would be much better. So I personally can't set proper goals for myself. A year and a half ago, I couldn't imagine I would be a developer advocate. I thought, and I still think, I'm a good engineering manager, and I'm a good mentor. So I like mentoring, I like helping companies and teams with processes. I like doing what I'm doing now as well. So setting a goal is very hard for me. I know what I want to do. I want to teach people. That's my passion. A year and a half ago, I had a very interesting project. I had a hypothesis that if I set learning process and teaching process right, I could grow 5 or 6 persons from almost no knowledge of Java to a decent knowledge of Java. So I had a commercial project in a company in Krasnodar where we invited 6 people, and with only 2 hours a day of mentoring, this group of 6 people managed to grow from pre-junior to strong junior, or some people even say it's a middle position, not knowledge, or kind of knowledge. So by the end of 2 months education, every one of them could take a task of 3 days or 2 or 3 days and complete it. I think that was my great success. So I want to have more projects like that. I'm currently doing part-time projects on Saturdays where I gathered a group of junior developers, and they are learning front-end without any mentorship. It's a mob learning. So I'm exploring different areas of teaching and learning. It's very interesting for me. And why developer advocacy works really well for me is that developer advocacy essentially is teaching others of something. So what I'm trying to do now, I'm writing lots of articles on quality management, because I kind of know what quality is and kind of know what management is. So I'm trying to bridge those two areas. And then Ilya will proceed writing on automatic tests, and then other peers from my company will write more articles. So we are actually gathering another meetup on the 26th of November here at Fabrica. It will be on QA topics. So I'm doing stuff myself, I'm writing, I'm teaching, and I'm helping others to do the same. That's why I like developer advocacy.
So it's not always about developers, it's just having fun and...
yeah, but again, if you set a goal and if you're disciplined in it, you excel faster, right?
Sure.
But again, it's not for everyone. I've seen that people can do that. They can grow within a year. They can grow significantly. I'm a much slower learner.
It's three. Yeah. So it's actually fun that you've mentioned the ways. So it's not for everyone, yeah, for sure. And I guess during your talk you've mentioned like 2 ways that you can achieve like marketing for yourself. So you can just become a better engineer or just try to be somewhat well known. Do you think there is another ways?
I think there are, yes, thank you. The most hardcore C developers I know 3. One of them worked for Baidu. I used to work at Baidu ages ago. And that person, single-handedly, he managed to build a system of replication of terabytes of photos and videos from one continent to another, live replication. So photos were instantly available in both Asian continent and American continent. I'm not sure how he's done that. He's a very smart engineer. He is not public at all. And he's paid so much that he even had his own manager. Not managing him, but helping others communicate to that person. Because he wasn't that of a nice guy, let's say. He wasn't nice. So what I'm saying is that he spent 20 years doing C development. He excelled in it. And every single week, I think, he would get offers from different companies. Because companies want to have people like that. But 20 years of hardcore C, not for me. So for someone, it's all right.
Maybe it's just creating the product. It's just another way.
Yeah. So that's a very good analogy, yeah. A product can be very good, but if it's not marketed at all, well, who will know of it? So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for the presentation. And now we are almost done with our today's meeting, but still our quiz part starts. So we will need just maximum 2 minutes to arrange everything, and we will start the quiz. Meanwhile, I'll explain the rules. So we will have 10 questions, and you will have to scan or input the numbers, which you will see on the screen, and you will play with your mobiles. At the end, when everybody is done with those questions, we will see who got the most correct answers. And with that, the winner will have the prize. So make sure you have your phones, and we will start very, very soon. So what's the current status for you? Great. Okay, great. So we should start. Yeah. Did it start?
Yeah.
Great, so good luck.
It was very fast. Faster than the right answer. And it is a JavaScript.
Wow. So
Nice.
we're done.
Good.
Why? Ah, okay.
Sure. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, let's move on. What else do you want? Let's check the result. Oh.
There's some good front-end developer here, I guess.
Yeah. So next question. Okay, let's check. Is it right? It still comes with yeah, a lot of hundreds. Oh my god.
Wow, Tim, you are undefeatable.
800. Let's move on. say. And the last one?
Okay, so get ready to our final answers. Congratulations. So, as a promised present, Teo will get our board game, which is called Raccoons. I hope you know. If you're not, it will be a good present for you, something new, something to have fun with. So you can come and get your present. This is it.
Well done.
Thank you all for participating. Thanks for coming. You can have coffee break if you want, some networking, and the official part of our event is done.